Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 2002 Subaru Outback. Up front is a 2.5 liter flat 4, and down below is a 4-speed automatic transmission. Now, I'm super excited to be driving this 02 Outback for a couple of reasons. First of all, I have driven an 02 Outback before here on the channel, but that was over 4 years ago. And so I think it's important to sort of re-up some vehicles, see how I feel about them, what might have changed. But the second reason is that when I re-review vehicles, it gives me an opportunity to learn even more about them, to do different research, maybe talk about different topics. And so I have kind of an interesting final thoughts segment planned for this video that I think you should stick around for. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form, takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. But let's get back to that 2.5 liter flat 4 under the hood. It makes horsepower. Here's the thing. This engine is on at least its second set of head gaskets. Although this is the proper engine for this car actually received a junkyard engine. And when the owner had it rebuilt, it already had aftermarket head gaskets in it. So that means it's gone through at least 2. These engines are known for blowing head gaskets left and right. However, this vehicle does have over 273,000 miles on it. Like I said, paired to it is a 4-speed automatic transmission known as the 4EAT, the 4EAT. And this was Subaru's workhorse from the 90s up until fairly recently when they swapped over to the CVT in the 2000s. It's a pretty good transmission. It's doing fine, and I can't really blame it. Last but not least, the Subaru Outback is all-wheel drive. However, you can actually swap it to front-wheel drive by putting a fuse in the fuse box. Subaru did this so if you put a spare tire on it, you can move the spare tire to the rear differential and then basically just turn off the rear diff so then it's not getting power and it doesn't hurt the gears inside the diff. So the owner actually did that, so this vehicle is currently in front-wheel drive, which is interesting and something you should know if you do plan on putting a spare tire on your Subaru all-wheel drive vehicle. So how does it feel to actually drive the Subaru Outback? It's fine. It's pretty cushy. Visibility is very good. This is sort of the end of that era of fantastic visibility in cars. The front wheel drive is fine. There's a little bit of vibration that goes with it. And overall, is it a sports car? No, this is a workhorse, and I think you're going to realize that throughout the rest of the video. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 4 gauges. Off to the left, I have my fuel and speedometer, and off to the right, I have my tachometer and coolant temperature. The steering wheel doesn't have any forward-facing buttons, just an SRS airbag, and it is very typical of Subaru from this era. Off to the left, we do have a climate control vent, our fog light switch, cruise control, and a dead switch. And moving on to the door, we have our power mirrors, power locks, and power windows, of which the driver's window is auto. Moving into the center, we do have 2 climate control vents, as well as the hazard switch. And we have the climate controls, temperature off to the left, fan speed in the middle, where to send it off to the right. We also have an aftermarket radio because pretty much every radio from the early 2000s doesn't really keep up with modern tech. And then we have 2 cubbies where the full radio would have been. This is what the radio would have looked like back in the era if this vehicle had the original unit. Then we do have an ashtray, 12-volt outlet, and a cubby. And then we have the shifter, very typical of Subaru shifters of this era. Clean, concise, and simple, and I love it. Then we do have a little all-wheel drive badge along with 2 coin holders, which I've always found kind of funny. This would be the heated seat buttons if you got a higher trim. Then we have the handbrake and the cup holders. So we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the 2002 Subaru Outback, and unfortunately it fails. Kind of knew it would, but we still got to test it. Then we do have a center console and the seats. The seats are leather, so these are actually swapped in from a upper trim level of the Outback. So these are not original to this particular car, but they are correct Outback seats, and they're fine. They do the job. I don't really have any complaints about them, and as you can see, they've stood the test of time. But speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2002 Subaru Outback. Couple things to note. First of all, these actually have the standard cloth seats that you would have seen up front had they not been swapped out in this car. So this is what the front seats would have looked like. They are pretty comfortable. Headroom is actually pretty good. Knee room is okay. I am hitting the seat in front of me, but the driver could be nice and move up just a smidge. I do get an ashtray and a dual cup holders down below. I don't get a center console or anything like that. Pretty standard backseat stuff. This is a base model, so nothing really crazy. Let's hop out. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. Right around the back of the 02 Subaru Outback. Big handle under there, and pull it up. Pretty good cargo space. I will show it empty as well. Tons of cargo space, what I absolutely love about this generation of Outback. You could also come in here. We do get a privacy cover, which not a lot of owners got in the Subarus. It is sort of flappy, but it works. And if you come over here, this panel normally goes up like this, so it looks all nice. But if you come in here, you actually do get a 12-volt outlet, which is handy for camping or tire inflating. So this would normally go up like that, so it looks all prim and proper. But that is the rear trunk space of a 2002 Subaru Outback. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and this is finished in white. I think the paint name is actually like metallic white. It's not a very fun name, but I've always enjoyed the look of these Outbacks. This is sort of macaroni styling for me, where I have a warm sense of nostalgia whenever I see these because I grew up around them. This was kind of the Subaru wagon that I grew up with. And so it's always fun to see one. And I think it sort of has this fun, lovable characteristic to it. I think it's a good looking vehicle, and I always have, and I think I always will. So with all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving the Subaru Outback from 2002? Well, I really enjoyed this experience. I really like these cars as it is. I've always enjoyed these cars. And so when Joseph offered me to drive another one, I said yes, of course. But in doing my research, I wanted to bring up an interesting topic that I feel like is never really brought up with Subarus. And that would be that GM actually had a controlling share in Subaru during this era. So back in the year 2000, GM purchased a large chunk of Subaru for $1.3 billion. The reason they did this is because they wanted to, A, learn about all-wheel drive systems. Up to that point, GM never really had a good passenger vehicle all-wheel drive system. Yes, they had like the Cyclone and Typhoon and stuff, but they wanted to learn a more consumer-oriented all-wheel drive system, so they sought out Subaru. But the other big reason was they wanted a stake in the Asian markets. They wanted a better foothold and maybe utilize some of Subaru's dealership system in those markets. And so they purchased a large share. And this is why some Subarus of this era actually come with OnStar, which is GM's roadside assistance system. This always puzzled me. I always thought it was weird to see a Subaru with OnStar. We also got collaborations between Saab, which was a GM company at the time, and Subaru. The Saab 97s, and of course the Subarus that everyone is so familiar with. That came out of that partnership. They even resold the Forester in some markets as a Chevy, one of my favorite comedic rebadges of all time. But in 2005, GM was evaluating their financials, and although they say they didn't sell Subaru because they were hurting for cash, which, let's be honest, GM was probably hurting for cash, they said that they didn't really see the benefit anymore. They didn't really get the information or the dealership network that they were hoping for out of the partnership. And so they ended up selling Subaru, and so they ended up selling most of their shares to a little company named Toyota in 2005. And from then on out, we got the Subaru Toyota vehicles, mainly the BRZ/GR86 came out of that partnership. We also got a lot of hybrid systems. There was a hybrid Crosstrek. That was sort of helped out by Toyota and vice versa. And now we have the Subaru Solterra/Toyota BZ4X from that relationship. That was all because GM sold their shares to Toyota. If they hadn't done that in 2005, we might not have the GR86. We might not have the BRZ, and we definitely wouldn't have the Subaru Solterra / Toyota BZ4X. So kind of interesting how something that happened nearly 2 decades ago is shaping our current car market. And I've always found that fascinating. I feel like people always forget that GM actually did have a large stake in Subaru. And to be honest, I didn't really think about it much until I started doing research for this video. However, one thing that this Subaru definitely took on from its parent GM was that this car goes the distance. Yes, it has engine head gasket issues and it's on its 3rd set of head gaskets, but Mr. Regular from Regular Car Reviews said it best about GMs. GM products will run like garbage for longer than most cars run at all. Most cars don't hit 273,000 miles. And you could tell by looking at this car that it's done that many miles or probably more. But it's still here to tell the tale. It's still here functioning, and as a matter of fact, it actually made a journey from the little state of New Jersey out here to Illinois so I could review it. Not many cars can say that they've done that at this mileage. It's going to be laborsome, but it's a labor of love for such a great little vehicle. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Joseph for bringing this car all the way out here to my little postage stamp state of Illinois for this review. Joseph has been absolutely awesome to work with. Very, very knowledgeable. Thank you for showing me that front wheel drive fuse. I had never seen that on a Subaru before. So he's been great, and obviously to drive it cross country for my YouTube video is pretty flippin' awesome as well. So huge thank you to Joseph for making this possible. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.